Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Well, all right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, well, we're going to talk about when things go bad, do your values change? Like, what are you willing to do to protect your family? Do you do anything? I mean, is that the most important thing? Or is it more important to go out and be like, well, I did the right thing. I was a good Christian, or I helped my neighbor, or I was a good Democrat. I gave him everything. I didn't want to see any babies go hungry. One of the biggest examples that I've ever, considered is, when you think of things like the Donner Party. Now, the Donner Party was, the story ends in cannibalism. So
if you haven't heard, spoiler alert,
it's not going to end well. And that's not the only thing. I mean, there's so many things that I, want to touch on this. There's, so many different ways that the world can turn bad. And it basically, what is it? You just keep kind of turning down different paths, finding different compromises that you make more and more. And then you're like, well, I already did that. Like, all right, so the world ended, it's an EMP. These stores are going to be looted. All the groceries are going to be gone. Do you just go and, take yours before somebody else gets it? Or are you down? You're down for stealing right away?
That's the thing is a lot of people, it's easy to have good morals and stick by your principles,
right? If
you're not hungry and you're not cold,
right? Now, what happens if you grab the box of chocolate Lucky Charms and there's only 2 boxes left? You got both of them,
and somebody got their hand on my Lucky Charms,
and they got their hand on your Lucky Charms, and you're like, hey, that's not okay. Now, what happens then? He punches you in the face. What if this guy's maybe big enough?
How is he going to punch me in the face if he's already missing his hand?
Oh, well, I think you just drew a line right there, Kevin. That's what I'm talking about. Now, let's talk let's go down this kind of ugly road, and we'll get down into the the nitty gritty of all this. But the Donner Party. I mean, to me, this is the most extreme example,
right?
And this what are you willing to do?
Yeah, and these are people that were well prepared. They were wealthy. They
very
had
well, right?
Massive amounts of cattle with them, massive amounts of gold and silver with them. Yes. They were wealthy people, and they planned well ahead of time.
A 2-story wagon.
Yeah.
That's
what?
Luxury,
it said it took 8 oxen to pull that one.
Yeah, it was a luxury palace, is how.
His 12-year-old daughter called it the Prairie Palace.
Right, the Prairie Palace. See, you're on it. But that's the thing. It was they had all these things, and it wasn't just we're taking our wealth. They actually did a really good job of stockpiling oxen and food, and they had a lot of supplies. And it was well thought out supplies. Now, it all kind of went wrong. This guy came out with a pamphlet because, any way you can make a buck. I'll put these PDFs on the interwebs about how to, I don't know, grow tomatoes in your backyard and it'll change your world and whatever. This guy put out a pamphlet, and it was how to how to go to freaking California and Oregon. And it was
right. I forget what it was.
Hastings was the guy's name.
The Immigrant's Guide. That's what I was trying to remember.
Oregon and California. And basically what he did was he came up with a shortcut because everybody was doing the whole Oregon Trail and there was a Utah Trail because a lot of people were going out west. This is 1846, a little bit before the gold rush, but there was, a shortage of land. Right, because they were so overcrowded in the 1800s.
Right, 1800s. They're not Illinois. Yeah, I used to live in Southern Illinois where these guys started out, and there ain't nobody there now. I don't know about 200 years ago.
So overcrowded, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, all right, let's go to California. Now there was the Reed family. And he has the argument, well, my wife gets headaches, maybe the better California climate. This is Mr. and Mrs. Reed. I had a picture I dug up if you're watching it on the YouTube.
Oh, wow.
She's an attractive woman.
She looks like the type of woman that was just a bitch and you said she had headaches to justify.
Is that what it is? To just be like, and he's like, anything I could do to get her to just stop. So anyway, they were like, all right, let's check out this Hastings Trail. And they ended up, when they get down to Missouri, they meet up with the Donner Party, his two brothers, James and Jacob. And when they get together, and the numbers kind of fluctuate as this goes because this trip takes several turns. But it's basically 87 people when the Donners and the Reed get together and they head out. And they're all down for this, 400-mile shortcut. Mm-hmm. Now, what they didn't know was that the guy who just looked at a map and was like, oh, this looks like a better way, didn't actually try it out. Why go
west and north if you can just go like diagonal?
Right. Like this is obvious. A straight line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they were going to save, I think it was 400 miles off the trip. And he put
by going right over the Rocky Mountains.
That it was, but he put in his notes that, you'll be able to do it with a wagon. It's no problem. Everybody, this is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So, it's not hundreds of miles of desert.
Now,
what
is ironic? Yeah, exactly. What's ironic is the day that they decide to head out, like when they meet up together, the Donners and the Reeds, is the same day that Hastings is like, hey, I should check out my trail and see if this is even doable.
Mm-hmm.
And so he actually is coming from the West Coast.
Right.
And he's like, hey, I'll meet you guys. And we'll, we'll head up. So they call it Laramie Hastings Cutoff is the shortcut. And he actually hears about their party doing the trip and he sends word ahead and it's like, hey, I'm going to meet you right at the entrance and I'm going to take you through it. So they're like, oh, this is going to be sweet. Now, as they start to go, they stop at a military base and they're like, hey, you know what? That's really a bad idea. I would not recommend taking this Hastings Cutoff. And at this point, see, I heard some conflicting stories. I should have done a little better research. But at that point, I think the Reed party's like, you know what? Maybe we just stick with our thing. But I'm not sure on that one. I don't know. So anyway, so the Donners, the point is what we're willing to do. So just stay with me here. So the Donner Party, everybody goes on, and it's still like 84 people because they kept acquiring people and losing people. They're like, no, you know what? We're going to do it. So they get there, and Hastings is nowhere to be found. However, they run into another family, and they're like, hey, we met Hastings. He went ahead and said, you guys just catch up, and left a note, hey, everything's good. Make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So they head out, and they end up getting to, as Kevin said, things kind of turn worse when they get to the mountains. They get to a place called Weber's Canyon. And I saw some pictures. It's not exactly covered wagon friendly.
No.
And so they end up staying and waiting and like, hey, we're not sure what to do. And they stay a couple days and it doesn't end well. So, but they eventually are like, you know what, fuck it. We have to lose some wagons. We have to lose some oxen. We're just going to keep going. And they push through. And they do. And they get through Weber Canyon. Then they end up crossing the They have to cross the Salt Lake Desert. Now, here's one of the problems here. They're crossing the Salt Lake Desert, and Hastings was like, "Oh, it's just going to take like 2 days. You
right.
Get right
nice and
that.
Flat, hard surface. Just fucking roll right across that thing.
The hard surface, not so much. Mm-hmm. So the wagons ended up getting stuck. They lose 32 oxen crossing this desert because they're just getting stuck. It's a disaster. They finally end up, this slows them down so much that by the time they get to the Sierra Nevada mountains, there is like 4 to 5 feet of snow. And they're like, fuck it. We can't, come through this. This is insanity. And there's no way we're going to be able to power through. So they decide to hunker down for the winter. Mm-hmm. And this is where things start to go awry.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, dude, they made effort, like, to not eat each other, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know that they said, hey, let's not eat each other yet. Let's do this. But they were eating the marrow out of the bones. They were eating bark off the trees. They were boiling the hides of the animals and chewing on that, chewing on the leather.
Yeah, it's not all stuff that you don't want to eat, that you shouldn't be eating.
Now, nobody really knows how it went, to like, there's conflicting stories coming out of them. And you want to think, oh, well, some people just froze or starved to death and then they ate them. But they do know that there were 2 Native Americans that they shot and that they ate. So 81 people ended up being trapped at the Sierra Nevadas there. 45 of the people survived, and they said basically about half 8 people. All right. Now, I mean, we're moving into the future, so I'm in green. Hey.
Yeah, and Native Americans,
Yeah, are they even people? That's hell for that one.
Yeah,
it was the joke. If you didn't, Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin, help you out.
Yeah, but so I mean, there's a lot of stories coming out now. I don't know how true this is, but I know that a lot of people that eat people, get a taste for it.
Oh.
And so maybe you're starving at first and then you eat somebody, but they didn't really taste great. So you have to kill somebody else and see how they taste, Maybe one will taste better. Maybe the next one will taste better. I remember reading an interview, reading a news article about an interview where one of the little girls said that mommy tasted the best. That's some crazy stuff. If a little 9-year-old girl told me that she ate her mom, nah, I'm out. That's the beginning of a horror movie, man.
Yeah, no, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. So they did eat some people. Basically what they did was they got stuck in the snow and they basically had to hunker down under big pine trees. That's how they originally set things up. They got under the boughs of the pine trees where the snow, kind of made a depression around the base of the tree. And they'd get in there. But I mean, as you run a fire and stuff, that snow above you melts, and it's just not possible to really stay warm in there.
You're wet and nasty, and no, nobody wants any part of that. And that's, I imagine, the wind and the, it just can't be good. And the higher elevation, you got thinner air, just everything is, and it goes bad. But that's it. How do you get to that point? Now, you had another story on the whole cannibalism thing. It's not exactly unheard of. Right. This has happened a few times. So
yeah, it has happened a couple times. This one is about
a rugby team, right?
In Chile? Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571. So it was an Air Force plane. that was carrying.
Mind you,
people,
an Air Force plane they call the lead sled.
Yeah,
so,
it didn't work out as good as the at the flying part, but we'll see. So on October 3rd, 1972, a controlled flight in the terrain due to pilot error crashed in the mountains between Uruguay and Chile. Was actually in Argentina in the Andes Mountains. There were 45 people on the plane, including passengers and crew. 12 of them died initially, but I mean that was just the beginning. So once they crashed, a lot of people were really fucked up. Yeah. You know, most of the people on the plane were.
One of the guys was in a coma for 3 days. There were some broken bones, and
a lot of people had compound fractures where their bones were like sticking out of them and stuff. You know, like serious issues. And you know, if you don't have medical help pretty quickly with some of these issues, it's just not going to work out.
And the pilot had a gun and was like, you know what, just shoot me. It's so bad.
Yeah. He was crushed in between the control panel and the back.
They were like, you know what, we can't do that. But then he just died right after.
Yeah, right at the beginning, everybody still had their morals intact, and I'm not gonna kill somebody. I'm not gonna help somebody commit suicide because you go to hell for that stuff.
Go to hell, man. You're saving you from eternal hellfire. Just tough it out a little longer.
Yeah, so they basically wouldn't kill anybody, so everybody just suffered and died first. All the grievously injured people.
Right.
Ultimately, out of the 45 people, 16 people survived. This is what they had for 72 days. This is the food they had on hand: 8 chocolate bars, 1 tin of mussels, 3 small jars of jam, 7 bottles of wine, 1 tin of almonds, and some dried plums for 33 people to start with. So, yeah, that stuff runs out pretty quick. The eight chocolate bars were pretty much gone immediately. Said one of the guys for the first week, all he ate was a chocolate-covered peanut. But
for a week,
even for a whole week, the first week, he wouldn't eat anything except for that. And still the food was basically gone within 2 weeks. You know, they were on starvation rations on day 1. And the worst part, well, I guess it's good news and bad news for them, but they were able to get a radio working.
Yes. And they found out they called off the search party,
just in time to find out they called off the search for him. You know, so luckily they knew that they had to get out of there themselves if they were going to get out of there. Nobody was going to find them. They were way off course from where they're supposed to be when they crashed.
When they started going down, the pilots reported that they were a minute away from the airport. And that's why they actually turned. They were heading straight and they turned towards the airport, but it turned out they were 11 minutes away. And when you're in a plane and going, 120, 130 miles an hour, 11 minutes is kind of a big deal. It kind of affects your area. They said the plane was just a big white tube, and looking for it in the snow didn't really help.
Yeah, exactly. It was white on white, and there's no, they tried to do stuff to make it more visible, but basically by the time they started like chipping paint off and laying out tarps and stuff, there wasn't anybody flying over this area. This wasn't a place that was in between 2 other places. It wasn't on the way to anywhere. Yeah, so to the guys, so eventually there's an avalanche, and more of the people, were buried in the avalanche and killed. And the bodies, what do they call it? Flash freezing, right? When you take a piece of meat and chuck it in the freezer and it freezes quick, you don't have to worry about it spoiling or anything like that. They were flash frozen. So after starving and realizing there's no way they're going to hike out of there without having any food, without having any protein or calories, that's what they had to do. That was the only real option left other than sitting there and starving and freezing to death.
Yeah, no, it's pretty brutal. And that's it. So eventually one of the guys is like, hey, the captain, I was thinking we might want to eat him. And this is the one that already died. This is the guy up front that, was like, hey, shoot me. And basically, I think that's the only cannibalism that occurs. Is that right? On the plane ride? That's my understanding with this plane crash.
I think they only ate one person. I'm not clear on this, because I know that they had big discussions about if I die, you can't eat me. If I die, you can't eat me type of stuff.
Right. I mean, hey, I'm the guy that says no. That's a no-go.
Nobody wants. Yeah. Well, but I mean,
really, you're pretty selfish if you won't let your buddies, eat you. I mean, really, come on.
Mm-hmm. I think we've had this discussion. You said that I couldn't eat you in a worst case situation,
and I said you would anyway.
Right. Everybody can eat me. If I die, everybody can eat me except for Chuck.
Right. That sounds right.
There's no meat for you, dude. Like, you're gonna be greedy with your meat. Now you can't have any of mine either.
Yeah, no, that's a little rough. No.
Yeah, Alive is the name of the movie that was based on this event. Yep.
Oh, the Chili Guys? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that definitely is a true story all day. That definitely happened. That's rough. And that's the thing. I mean, you can go a long time without food, but you lose energy. You lose reasonable thinking.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
There's a lot more to it, because people don't generally go from having a full 2,000 calorie a day healthy diet one day to the next day having 0 calories. That's not really how that works.
You do it? No.
You're trying to squeeze in anything that you can get that you can eat, any calories here and there, and slowly kind of dwindle away. There's a lot of side effects from starvation.
Yeah.
I know people say 3 weeks, right? Takes 3 weeks to starve. That's with going from a healthy diet to no food. But you can stretch it out and just make your life miserable for months. And they did a study with these guys in Minnesota during the Second World War. They got, several healthy young men that, they put them in this study instead of sending them to war. Basically, It was like, a trade-off type thing.
Oh, that's a good deal.
They started shorting them on food to, like, give it a test run. You know what I mean? See what really happens. So they went from a full diet for 2 months. They'd fed them and regulated all the food to half diet. And, things start out going somewhat normal. You're a little bit hungry. It's not a big deal. You're a little bit hungry, but things get worse and worse over time, right? As you start being in that calorie deficit over a longer and longer period of time, and there's several effects that has on your mental health.
Right.
So immediately, the first one is confusion. Your concentration gets worse. Then you start thinking about food all the time. You dream about it. You daydream about it. You just kind of zone out thinking about food. You hoard your food. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, but when you're in a starvation mode, you start hoarding things, not just food, but everything in general. And even if you're the only person and you've got all the food, sometimes you won't even eat it because you're saving it for later. And there's a lot of people that have starved to death with food. You know what I mean? They had food, but they didn't want to eat it until they needed it. And
they missed that window.
They were just too confused. Your brain doesn't work right. So it leads to depression. Depression is a major effect. Irritability and anger. Who hasn't been hangry? You know what I mean? Yes. That's one we're familiar with. You're more prone to hysteria, just losing your shit over nothing,
Maybe that's because I'm always hungry all the time. Maybe that's why I'm angry.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That fits. That tracks. Yep.
Yeah, and reduced strength and coordination obviously comes with reduced calories. But those are the major findings of that study. And I think a lot of people miss that, though, is the damage on your mental health that sort of thing can have.
No, it really does. And that's, you just start making poor judgment calls. That's the kind of thing. Like, people are like, oh, well, I go all the time. I don't cut myself with my pocket knife and the hatchet or whatever. And then they're like, why in the apocalypse, in every story, somebody cuts their hand with the hatchet or the knife.
Right.
One, you are, in these scenarios, you're typically doing things that you're not normally doing. However, on the flip side, everything starts to slip, your coordination, your mental ability, all this stuff. It really makes a difference in how alert that you are when you go from one to the other. And also, like, to be honest, I mean, a lot of stories came out of the military and different times where you can learn to function in these reduced calorie states and things like that. But there's a learning curve,
Right.
and that's, it's not going to be an instant thing like that. So yeah, having a plan, somebody, mentions like rationing your food and kind of figuring it out, but maybe also trying out some of these things, doing a little fasting or a little something, beforehand, and kind of start to understand how your body reacts and how you feel and how your decisions are. Maybe not a bad idea. Maybe something worth trying out.
Going 3 days without food isn't the worst thing that most of us could do anyway. Just
what, Kevin? What being a fat ass, Yeah. No, exactly.
No, but I mean, testing out, seeing how your body functions, how you function, how your brain works. I can tell you this: 1 or 2 days without any food, with reasonable amount of water, to maintain your hydration, that sort of stuff. It'll give you a lot of mental clarity. You know what I mean?
Oh,
but after that, it gives you mental clarity. Your brain is doing that so that you can find something to eat. But after that, it goes downhill fast.
It gives you that quick boost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, another scenario, right? We're talking about the bad decisions and the things you have to do. What about, there was that movie 127 Hours? So it's Aaron Ralston. Right. Now, this is the guy, he's out hiking. He's in the Stone Mountains desert, I guess. Desert's where I'd go. And I mean, based on the clips from the movie, I don't know, I couldn't sit through a movie like that. I couldn't do it.
I watched it. It took about 27 hours to get through the damn movie, though.
Right.
Just kept going and going.
But basically, he falls down into a ravine and a rock breaks loose and comes down. And what happens is his hand gets pinched between the rock, where just kind of it's exposed about it, his wrist.
Right.
And what had happened was the rock, we'll say, I mean, I'm guessing, looked like it weighed about 100, 150 pounds, but it's above him and pinching his wrist, and it's kind of wedged in between the cliff.
Right.
Like he's in like a ravine, in a
right. It's wedged between the two rock
walls.
It's
wedged between the two. So one, it's wedged, so you have resistance there. But two, you have nowhere to stand. You're exhausted, whatever, and he can't push the rock back up to free his hand. And that's basically how that plays out. But he's forced where either I'm going to be dehydrated and die for sure, or all I have is my pocket knife, or Leatherman, I think it was. And I got to cut my wrist off so I can get out of here and go get help and get water and food and live. Now, how do you do that? I mean, I'm sure there are people who would just die in that situation, that they could not bring themselves to do that. And that's the thing, even in fights though, I don't know. Do you have insight you wanted to touch on with that one, or is that enough gore?
Yeah, that one is one that really grosses me out, because he had to break his own bones.
Yeah.
Because you can't just cut through your middle of your arm,
Right.
So he had to break his own bones and cut it.
But yeah.
Oof. Yeah, and that's it. Don't do dumb shit like that. I do dumb shit like this all the time. This is definitely something that could happen to me.
Yeah, and that's it. When you go, they say, "Oh, don't go hiking alone." Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can't always find somebody to go with you, and sometimes you got to get out in the woods.
Exactly.
That's my take. But yeah, that's dumb shit to do. But I mean, I do dumb shit all the time. That's one of my hobbies, is doing dumb shit.
And that's it. It just takes the wrong scenario of
one little mistake.
You're going and the copperhead bites you in the leg and you're like, ooh. And like I said, that may not be the deal ender, but that may change things down a horrible path. And then the next thing,
Yeah, so a lot of these situations though, it's really something that you have to think about ahead of time before you get in a situation like that. Are you willing to break your own arm and cut your hand off?
right?
I don't know. That's a big ask, but after 5 days of not eating anything, maybe you start making some crazy decisions, and that's something that's worthwhile.
And that's the thing. I mean, 127 hours, you're like, oh, well, that's not, these other people we just talked about went, a lot further. However, he's in the middle of the desert and he's not even, able to move. He's got, there's issues there. But there's so many other things that you kind of need to confront mentally. And I think that's one of the things, we talked about going without food and stuff like that. That's a big deal. But what happens when your babies are starving? When, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to break into somebody's house and take from, at first you're like, oh, well, there's some empty houses in the neighborhood because whatever apocalypse happened in EMP and these other people, I know they were away on vacation in Bermuda. Do I break into their house and take some of their food? Maybe you tell yourself, well, I'm just borrowing it.
Right, I'll pay them back.
Get back to normal. Yeah. I'll give them back their food. Or maybe you're like, nope, I'm moral and I'm above that. And then everybody else comes and takes from that family.
Right.
All right. So that house has been looted and whatever. The grocery store, right? The grocery store on the corner, that's already been looted. You didn't do it because you're not that kind of person.
Right.
Okay. So you didn't take anything from the grocery store. Now you kind of have nothing left. And now your kids are hungry. And what do you do? Now the only person left to take is, you're seeing, oh, there's guys at the end of the road and they went to all the empty houses and they took all the stuff and they have a lot at their house.
They have a lot of stuff there.
I can see a lot of supplies there. And I feel like, they should share, but they're not.
They stole it,
And I mean, is it rightfully theirs? So is it okay if I take from them because they're bad people?
Right.
Or maybe you go down the road a little further and because those guys, you can't overpower them anyway. Now, what about the family next door? I mean, that guy, it's only him and his wife and they're old.
Right. They're
and
old
your kids are young and they got to eat and they're crying every day, and the little daddy, I'm starving. I could die. Or maybe they're at the point where that's how they were 2 days ago, but now they're not even talking.
Right.
And they're just sitting there. And now what do you do? What's the answer?
Yeah, they say that that the lower your income becomes,
okay,
the more prone you are to believe stealing is okay. So that's not just saying that poor people are more likely to steal, but that's saying that the less money you have going forward, the less resources you have, the less things you have, the more likely morally you would be to say that it's okay to steal to feed your kids. But what if your kids don't like bread? You know what I mean? What if they like something else, like, I don't know, cigarettes,
Filet mignon.
Maybe your kids, like whiskey. I don't know what they do. I mean, I don't know what your kids are into. Not every kid loves chocolate.
Okay.
So, I mean, is that okay to steal? Maybe you need to hijack a truck full of cigarettes to take care of your family. It's only right. That's what they want, Take care of your family.
Kevin, this is all about justifying your attraction to whiskey, isn't it?
This is all hypothetical.
A roundabout way. I mean, I know you were like, oh well, cigarettes and whiskey. That sounds right.
Yeah, that's my.
Oh,
my
well, that truck
food.
that crashed with the good cigars. I mean,
Yeah. Yep.
Like they could even find a market in the apocalypse. For
what I'm saying?
Cigars.
By the time they get out here and clean all these cigars up, they're all going to have gone bad out in the sun like that.
To be honest, the people they could distribute them to, are they really going to appreciate it like you'd appreciate it?
Exactly. Exactly.
You got to have.
But I mean,
standard.
It definitely is something that a lot of people like to think that their morals are set in stone, but there's been study after study showing that the worse of a situation you're in, the more stuff you would justify and you can justify doing.
And now here's the next scenario, right? So, all right, you have food set aside and you're making a road trip. You're going to Aunt Susie's in 2 states away, right? And because she's got the big farm and they have a pond and they have, a big cornfield. And I know that she has 20 cows. And if we can just make it to Aunt Susie's farm, we're going to live. And this is after maybe an EMP strike, right?
Right.
And so nobody's moving, no food's coming, no resupply, because it's, we'll say, hackers and EMPs basically took out, 50% of the world, and everybody's going to take a while. So nobody else is coming for, support or aid. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, so you're going to go to Susie's. You're 2 states away. You got a road trip. It's going to take 1 to 2 weeks. You don't know roadblocks or who knows what you're going to encounter as you make this trip. But you have 3 days worth of food for you and your family at eating, we'll say 1,500 calories a day. So you're kind of rationing it, and you can move, and you have enough water just for each day. And you might have maybe a water filter, but you don't know what you're going to find or what the world's going to permit. Now, you're going, ends up you're 3, 4, 5 days into this trip, and you're still not there, but you still have, we'll say 2,000 calories worth of food, between the 3 of you. And it's just you, your wife, and your little kid, your 3-year-old or whatever. And you come across a mother who's got a baby who's barely hanging on, and they just need a little water and a little something. Do you give them a granola bar that is going to be something that causes or do you kind of say to yourself, you know what, this person isn't going to make it? Because you giving them water or food today, where are they going to be tomorrow? They're going to
have food to eat tomorrow.
And are you taking away from your family who you're obligated as a man or whatever to take care of, or as a mother to take care of your children?
Right. You're responsible for those kids. And if you're a man, you're responsible for your whole family.
But then are you heartless? Do you have no compassion? You don't care about, anybody else, or, how does that work? Are you like, well, God will provide? Well, maybe God did provide when he had you prepare and set aside those granola bars and whatever. That's people always say, there's that joke about the guy's like, well, I'm stuck on this island and God's going to save me. I prayed about it. And a guy comes by in a boat and he's like, hey, look, I got this nice boat here. I can give you a ride back to the shore. And the guy's like, no, I'm waiting for God. He's going to save me. And, and then somebody else comes by and is like, hey, I can help you out. I'm a good swimmer. I can pull you. We can make it. And no, I'm waiting on God. He's going to help me. And then ends up starving to death and dies. And he meets God, and God's like, hey, he's like, why'd you abandon me? Why'd you leave me on that island? And God's like, dude, I sent a guy with a freaking boat. Like, what do you want?
Right.
And, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. You are obligated to take care of yours. And I'm not saying you don't help people. I'm saying you need to think about your actions. Now,
it's really easy to help people when you've got plenty.
There's another scenario, though, where you start giving out food and be the guy, they have enough that they can give some out. That means that's the guy I need to rob and to take from.
Right. He's got extra.
And that's the thing, Uncle Whiskey says, help the stranger and send them packing. Maybe that's the right answer, but it depends how well prepared you are and how capable you are to replace what you have, and that's something to understand. But one of the things I've seen in one of the prepper novels, and I thought was a really good idea, was even when they had excess, so think about if you had, I think in the novel I read, it was about, they had a ton of wheat. They had some wheat silos and they were able to make loaves of bread and they were able to kind of give it to people. Or if maybe you have a well, right? So you have endless supply of clean water because you have a well that you can access and whatever, then maybe you offer it out, but you offer it in trade. What happens then is it creates a mindset of it's not a free, unlimited resource.
Right.
And, and maybe you're lenient on what you accept in those trades, but trading your commodities versus just being here's free stuff really help you out. It might create a better community and a better something. And maybe you can use those trading supplies in order to help other people in the future. So I'm just saying, these are things that, you might want to think about. Looters and beggars.
Feed the looters to the beggars.
Smart.
Yeah, I think a lot of these stories, people romanticize. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be the biggest badass. I'd be the one that would make it. I'd be the one. And I can't tell you how many stories I read this past week of like Arctic exploration and stuff, where they're trying to find the Northwest Passage, or they're trying to cross Antarctica. A bunch of people trying to do dumb shit that they shouldn't have been doing, and they get stuck. Ship gets frozen into the ice. They're on ice. There's no food. There's no vegetation. They have supplies maybe, but how are they going to stay warm? They got to break that ship up. Then they're really screwed, right? So you start walking. 600, 100, 200 miles across nothing but snow, with only what clothing that you're able to scavenge together, and maybe none of it's waterproof. I read a lot of these stories about guys that were stuck on, next to the ocean, soaking wet with no waterproof gear, no wool, no, and they'd go hiking from this point to that point where they know that there's a city, and people start dropping off, and maybe the last guy gives up 5 miles away from getting to civilization and safety, but nobody's going to carry you. They're all dying too, and everyone thinks that they're badass. But if they knew that town was only 5 more miles away, would they be able to do it?
Right. Do you have enough resolve? Who knows?
Right. And those types of situations, when you go that long, freezing with frostbite, your toes and fingers are just, falling off at this point. You're losing appendages. How much are you willing to tolerate? How much pain can you go through before you lay down and die?
But I think, like, the reason we wanted to touch on this, and one of the things that, why we went down this long road here, is it should make you think about how you prepare. Are you going to, how are you going to deal with predators and looters and friendly people, who need help? You can't help everybody, but maybe it also makes you think about how much you store, how you store your food, where you put it, how do you keep it safe? How do you have enough? Do you, have it all out and exposed, and you're out barbecuing, when things go bad or whatever? Now, I understand day 1 or day 2 of a bad situation, people are probably, cooking out the stuff that was in the refrigerator that they don't have a way to store.
There's going to be a lot of barbecues on that first couple of days. Yeah.
And, no worries. But with that, you still might want to put enough stuff that aside that you might be able to help other people. Maybe you have some kind of long-term ration food that, is cheap and you can have in bulk or whatever, an extra 50-pound bag of rice than what you were normally planning, $25, but you can kind of fill some bellies. But again, if you look like the well-stocked guy and you come out right out of the gate, then everybody's like, hey, we should anyway, sorry, I'm looking at the comments and realizing you guys are all jerks. But you should have enough to help out other people, or, who knows, they all turn on you. And if you show your stores and let people know what you're really dealing with, they're going to be like, hey, we should all pool everything together. We're all
right. Let's all put our,
Yeah.
I've got 3 hot dogs. What do you got?
Yeah, I got 3 hot dogs, and you have that 200 pounds of rice. That's the thing. But maybe if you plan, you can help. But again, make sure that you're setting things up in some kind of barter or trade way where people understand that it's not an endless supply, and it's not, because, it takes a long time for people to, accept the idea that help may not be coming, or that things, because they've always known the government to take care of things, right? You guys have always seen the government do such a bang up job, solving problems. Why wouldn't they solve problems with a major catastrophe? Anyway, Uncle Whiskey, Slow Burn, all you guys who make it to the live show, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys are here. And damn, I can't keep focused. I can't look over at the chat. And, when Kevin starts talking, I can kind of sneak in a glance or whatever. But, man, it falls apart quick when I start reading things. I just become paralyzed, and I'm like, I don't know.
All right. So if you guys want to get a hold of us and give us some ideas, some show ideas, preppingbadass@gmail.com. What's our Patreon, Chuck?
Patreon.com/preppingbadass. And if you head over there and you commit to a little pledge, we might have a free mug that you get with your support. Maybe a Survival and Basic Badass t-shirt, something pretty cool like that. We also can get badass gear at preppingbadass.com. Just up at the top, click on gear. You can find cool stuff. Actually, I've heard nothing but good reports on the shirts and stuff lately. Good. I know in the past I was like, we're going to redo it and we're going to make it better or whatever. Well, we've gotten stuff, checked out, and now things seem like they're, a little higher level of quality. So if you guys are looking for some cool gear, you might want to check that out. Otherwise, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.